Hey everybody. So you can tell that we're not streaming right now because we're not online and stream chat's not moving at all. I wanted to film this intro real quick to cover some stuff that's been going on. The most notable thing is that what you're about to watch is our discussion as far as the WeSpa stuff last night. It's about 10 minutes, give or take. But basically it just covers some of the reactions, some of the shitty comments we've gotten, and just various other stuff. However, I was very delighted to see late at night last night that a number of really cool queer people had done some digging. And so at the end of that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to go through some of those acknowledgments. Thank you, Queen Rain. You get to be in this video. Water Ogre, thank you so much as well. Anywho, the goal here is to cover some of these updates. Now, again, nothing is definitive, but I think it's really important we keep these things in mind because there's a narrative we're trying to push against that seems to be almost handmade constructed to fuck trans people. So enjoy that part from last night, and then you'll see me in a minute. All right? Cool. And I might turn this into a segment if it turns into something else, but probably not. I always say that, and then I go back and make a segment of it. Sorry, I'm just catching myself in the act.
Just like I've got thoughts. Oh wait, there's a lot of thoughts here.
So, for those who don't know, you'll notice the channel's gotten a little more populated by about 200 subs. You'll notice the sub goal for the month is gone, because we blew right through that. So Monday of this week, we had posted the video about the WeSpa updates, specifically that the WeSpa incident had a alleged perpetrator, and upon inspection, it appears that situation is very complex and one that is very easy to ignore or very easy to get stuck in the data and allow a lot of projection to happen. Now, the point of that video was, let's be very clear, to point out the fact that there was a lot of unknowns and that there was a lot of issues. Now, if it turns out that this individual is somehow this awful perpetrator like they claim, I have no problem acknowledging that. This isn't some conspiratorial thinking. The issue is that as presented, a lot of the data is questionable. Coming from the Post, anything's questionable, and especially by Andy No. On top of the fact that, again, none of the articles seem to be able to combine anything, so this has been a regular thing for the week. Well, when the video went up, shortly after that, a couple days later, I think it was like Tuesday-ish, we had, we had suddenly the attention of Jessie Gender, Star Trek goddess herself, and she not only watched the video, which I super appreciate just in and of itself. I can imagine there's a lot of response videos she gets that she doesn't respond to because they're usually bad faith bullshit. But not only was she super awesome about it, but she also was, at least in my estimation, incredibly willing to accept the I think, pretty fair critique that me and Zena had come up with and took it to heart. And not only posted a comment on the video, but she also shared it on her Twitter. She posted a link to it as the pinned comment on her original video. And yeah, Sophia Fletcher, welcome. Welcome to all the new folks from Jessie Gender. Yeah, so this is kind of how this happened. And so, like, just to give everyone kind of an understanding, that video's at like 6K right now. And it was cruising by itself at like 400 or 500 beforehand. So I really appreciate Jessie doing all this.
I thought it was really cool too. Her comment, on the YouTube, on her video that she'd originally talked about ours was really fucking meaningful. It was really nice to read that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that, like, you have to understand that at a very base level, this is not hard to do but I understand why things did go the way they are. And I'm not trying to psychoanalyze anybody. God knows I've been fucking accused of that shit. The fact is that in a lot of ways, I get this urge. A lot of trans creators do this, where there is a drive to suddenly try to explain a situation. A lot of people did this with the Christian situation. A lot of people tried to do this. A lot of people try to do this thing where they try to make it make sense. And they want to not scare cis people.
Well, and I think get ahead. Some of that, too, is get ahead of the rhetoric, right? Be the first people to put the takes out there. And so the hope being that our takes are the ones that, are the ones that most people will kind of adopt or see, instead of, say, some conservative saying awful shit about the situation instead. So,
I mean, things like Christian and the WeSpa incident are basically perfectly constructed situations for right-leaning media to jump on. Sage Grey in YouTube chat says, I really think Jessie, just freaked out and was like, I better admit I'm wrong before people think I'm like an essay apologist. So, and here's the thing is, I'm going to get the claim against me, because nobody ever says shit about Zena. Just saying.
Hi, yeah. I'm here.
Yeah, don't harass them, but they are here. But basically, yeah, it's the problem is that I've already been accused of that in the comments. I'd show you, but some of them don't actually meet TOS. The reality is that a lot of the comments we've gotten, not a ton, we've gotten a ton of positive ones, have been a lot of TERF comments, people who follow Blair White. Like, when you guys leave comments, I hope you know I click on your profile and look to see who you follow. Like, we don't just randomly pay attention to, like, comments when we feel like it. Like, I go through and check to see where people are coming from. And we've had a number of people who are TERFs, a number of people follow Grand Linham. No, these people are going around looking for articles that are related to this topic and choosing to leave shitty comments and shitty things. One such comment that I deleted earlier today was, there were 4 witnesses. Yeah, 4 witnesses that came out of nowhere months later that easily could be part of the conservative hate mob that had showed up there. Also, it's interesting that during the initial discussions in the articles, it's funny how much we had to double check to make sure WeSpa did or did not have a trans woman on the docket that day, but no one's even confirmed whether these 4 women and a child were actually there that day themselves. Weird how we don't seem to really be verifying that. And this is the kind of stuff that I think is a big deal, is that when these kinds of things happen, we always appreciate them and they're always big, but they always do lead to sort of this pushback, these comments. In the comments, I've been called a sexual abuse apologist or a sex offender apologist or some other bullshit. One person said that I was giving off creeper apologia in the whole dick segment. The little bonus piece there where I mentioned that, like, a dick in nature is just a dick. Like, can we calm the fuck down? Like, I stand by the dick segment. I'm sorry.
And again, I was there too, and people are just like, nope. Can we not harass my partner too? Like, that would be neat, So.
Well, yeah, context is always important and the truth is important. If this person turns out to be some kind of, perverted individual, I don't mind coming out and saying, you know what, hey, this seems to be the case. Well, am I going to say I was wrong? No, because I went with what data was existing at the time.
And again, the value here, right, being that innocent until proven guilty, actually looking into the nuance of the situation. That's a big one on our channel is no fucking nuance.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever the outcome of this is, looking at that more as a isolated case rather than this is a comment on all trans people, right? It's not a comment on all trans people. We know that. And I think that's the big thing to keep in mind, especially if we deal with other crappy people in the world. So.
Well, exactly, and that's the biggest thing that really concerns me is that, if we're talking about this, I think the best thing to kind of acknowledge is whenever we look into a situation, we want to come at it with critical thinking. We want to remember what rational law is, which is the idea that someone in the United States is innocent until proven guilty. This is incredibly important. People ask themselves why this is. The reason why we have that, as far as I can tell, is because there is a natural gut human reaction at a psychological level to immediately assume guilt, to immediately say that an accusation is true. This is why I say whenever there's abuse, physical, sexual, mental abuse allegations, believe the victims, support them, do whatever you can to support them in every way possible, but withhold judgment against the accused. This is not because I want these people to walk scot-free. It's not because I want them to get away with some kind of crime. It's simply because we have evidence of people being on death row for no reason. We have evidence of people who have been mistaken because human memory is very unreliable. Eyewitness accounts are not reliable. You don't believe me? Watch the movie Rashomon. The simple fact of the matter is human psyche is not reliable, and we have to be careful. We have to withhold judgment. So if someone's accused, okay, we hear the accusations, we look at the data, we withhold judgment, and we observe the trial if it's important to us. The fact of the matter is that there's a lot of weird shit in California. The fact that indecent exposure could easily be used to weaponize against trans women and trans men for that matter is terrifying.
I also do want to say, if you're not familiar with how some of these laws work in your state or what some of the issues around indecent exposure and sex offender registries are, I really do suggest that people look more into that. After we were doing these videos, I was realizing, like, no, I've been around lawyer people, and there are people, you know, who have had these conversations and introduced me to, like, these issues being a thing. The fact that you can, like, go look up on the sex registry, like, you can look by name or by location. Like, these systems exist. There's all sorts of comments about good or bad or how they work, but definitely go look around that stuff, because I realized that I think I was in a privileged situation to be introduced to those topics, that these things exist, and I'm not entirely sure if that was everybody's experience, you know, I don't want to say growing up, but I must have been, like, in my older teens, you know, when people told me about these things, at the start at least. You know, I happened to have somebody who was knowledgeable and a lawyer and actually, like, dealt with these things, actually talk about this stuff. So.
No, absolutely. And again, like, the thing here is I don't have necessarily the privilege. I was a poor-ass kid that didn't know shit from shit. But I have Google Foo, and I can look these things up and ask questions. And again, if someone puts forth data to show that we were incorrect, I'll be more than happy to acknowledge the new data. But again, this is what we want, is reliable data and information. If we're talking about condemning a trans woman, I want to know why. And I also want to make it very clear, and I just need to say this very clearly, that even if this woman is convicted of indecent exposure, that doesn't necessarily, in any way, shape, or form, mean that she was doing anything wrong or perverted, because the law is so general and awful. Not to mention the fact, and I want to be expressly clear about this, even if she is convicted, it does not justify the behavior of Cubiana Angel. It does not in any way justify the behavior of the Proud Boy-filled religious hate mob. And it doesn't justify the violence that was used by the police against counter-protesters. The problem is that the right wants to do this as a slam dunk. A lot of right-leaning people, or just dumbass token trans people, I'm looking at you, Blair, want to use this as a way to just very clearly do a slam dunk. This happened. This person was justified in getting upset, which we still have no data to suggest. And because of that, that means everything that happened was justified, except for that's not how reality works. I know that's hard to understand for some folks, but that's not how, like, reasoning works. Just because this person turns out to be somehow criminally indictable doesn't mean A, the law is just, or B, that this makes any sense. The biggest part of this is that the indecent exposure claim, as we said before, could be easily weaponized. And this is not just true in California. We looked this up in our home state. We looked this up in multiple states. This is a thing.
No, I just read somebody's Reddit story not too long ago about being a slightly butch-looking lesbian that was, like, physically removed from, like, a bathroom at a gas station.
Mm-hmm.
No, this shit happens, and it's really fucked. So
I just ask everyone to be very thoughtful. It doesn't, in some ways, in the end, at least for our purposes, whatever the outcome of this situation is, it doesn't matter from one perspective, and that is, at least as far as how we talk about it and whether we engage with critical thinking, how the actual outcome doesn't really matter that much. Now, do I want this person to, if they're innocent, to not be in jail or have a larger sentence? Absolutely. But I do think that there's a thing here to recognize, is that we're dealing with multiple layers of issues, multiple layers of systems, and a lot of the conservatives that see these videos are too dumb to get them, and the comments reflected that. We had everything, again, as I said, comments claiming that we were all sorts of horrible things, when in reality, the only evidence we could find is supposedly some claims that this person did like a burglary and might have done some other large like crime. But then there was all the indecent exposure things. And again, all these indecent exposure things were being in the presence of women while naked. And there wasn't anything else about any kind of like sexual or any other type of inappropriate behavior. Again, incredibly easily to weaponize against a trans woman. No, I would agree, Sophia. That's why we have to be distrustful of them. We have to be distrustful of that stuff. That's not to say that we don't utilize the law when it's in our best interest. And again, if a Guy did do something wrong, I fully stand for that. I stand with Jesse on that. But we have to look at the data that's presented. So we'll keep an eye on this. We'll see if anything pops up. I think that's all I really have to say on it. Conservatives, you can keep posting your shit comments. I'm fine with that. I'm just going to keep deleting them and hiding you from the channel. You're welcome to make as many accounts as you want. Please, give us views, and then I will hide you more. Like, it's that simple.
Yep.
You have anything else you want to add, Kisses?
No, I just know I got distracted for a minute there because as people say things in chat, I've been starting a project where I want to make little like trading cards of just neat things that people say. A little tiny concept. So I felt inspired to do art. And it's been kind of fun, kind of trying to figure out ways to deal with the really difficult content. Also, like there's a lot here. Like, it's not easy stuff, and I think finding ways to, help us do self-care is good. So that's about all I got. Yeah.
But I'm not done yet.
All right, are we back? Cool. So here's what I wanted to share with you guys, and I've done the best I can to protect the innocent. If I fuck up, please let me know. So last night I hopped on Twitter, as one is wont to do, and I wanted to just see what my notifications were like, because I like dopamine. And what I had noticed is I had a shit ton, and a bunch of new followers for our TGT account. And I went, well, what made this way? And here's what happened. So a fairly well-followed member of the trans community ended up doing some digging. And that digging, in help with many other folks, who I'm not going to name here because I don't want them to get harassment, did some digging on our situation with the WeSpa. If you remember in the original video, we initially thought this was a hoax, and that we seemed like this was just really, like, too much, it was too convenient. Now, the most recent video I did, we discussed the fact that they had found a so-called suspect, but talked about some of the inconsistencies in both the storytelling, the sources of information, the clearly, fascist propagandaists that are spreading this story, most notably Andy No. And we kind of pointed this out and made a big deal of it. This was noticed by, as we mentioned in the previous video, Jesse Gender, who was gracious enough to hear us out about some of our concerns and shared the video, and we got a lot of responses. It was really cool. However, this happened, and this is super important. So we're going to try to go through these in order as best I can. If I fuck something up, just let me know in the comments, okay? So this lovely individual, who will remain nameless, went through, along with another individual, two lovely people, went through and dug through this. Now, what do these two things show? So the first thing shows that one of these has a correction. We'll come back to that in a second. But there's this. So these are the 5 cases pending against Guy Marager. I'm going to be using her, what I understand to be her chosen name, not her legal name. And we'll get to why, again, legal names are stupid. The fact of the matter is that these are all violations of Penal Code 314. We know what these all are, right? And so someone did some digging. Her 2003 conviction for indecent exposure appears to have been a plea down from prostitution charges and resisting arrest. All right, so looking into her case record, it looks like there are a few important facts. 1, she has been houseless and transient most of her life. Okay. 2, she was repeatedly arrested for petty crimes. One of her 2002 convictions is that she built up a fire too close to the road. Oh no. 3, her indecent exposure convictions, as far as I can tell, involved sex work or were part of criminalization of her not having a home, i.e. people see things because she doesn't have a private space to go to. 4, and this is the clarification we'll get to in a minute, most of her record is petty theft and one incident of tattooing a minor. Lol, nothing to do with minors, and it's completely understandable that she wouldn't know that pleading no contest to decent exposure charges to avoid serving time would mean she's on the sex offender registry. Megan's Law was still very new at this point. As a note, tattooing a minor, correction, it was a 653, which is possession of a switchblade, not tattooing a minor. Different code, right? So what we have here is evidence to suggest, based on the research that trans people have done, that this person is a transient, houseless, unhomed person who is a trans woman who clearly may have engaged in sex work in the past, which is someone wants to do when they're in poverty, and who may have, because of lack of legal counsel, pleaded down on some of these charges to avoid jail time, but ended on the registry for this. This goes directly with what we were pointing out. That is, the indecent exposure laws in the state of California and in many other states are frankly insane. They are toxic. They are inherently transphobic, because all it takes is one person to get offended by your junk, and there's a problem. And it doesn't matter if you're like a flasher, or you're jerking it, or you're just a person who happens to be a trans woman who's pre-op in a fucking bathroom that women are in with you. That's a problem. And if you're somebody who's houseless, guess what? That's a problem. Because you don't have a lot of places to go. You don't have a lot of opportunities to go. You don't have places that you can go to clean up and things like that. This is really fucked. And it looks like, based on some of these discussions, again, carrying a switchblade makes sense if you're a sex worker. Go fuck yourself. Petty crimes, building a fire too close to the road. It's almost like the police were harassing her. Fascinating, right? So we have all of this. This person has been arrested for what appears to be somewhat nonsensical reasons. And it seems to be a person who's been targeted. That really sucks for her. Let's move on. So another thing this person pointed out is, of course, another possibility is the fact that the Trans Wellness Center is literally 0.4 miles away from WE Spa. I'm told that this area has a lot of trans people, so she could have just been going there until she saw a trans woman, i.e., we don't even know if this person just happened to see a guy's penis, which shouldn't be a problem if it's a trans-friendly place anyway. But again, she might have just been going there long enough till she did see something. This is very close to here. Why pick this location when you know it's filled with trans people, when trans people regularly use this facility? Unless you're planning this. Again, I can't prove that, but that's the allegation I would throw out, is it seems really strange to use this place that you know is an LGBT-friendly environment. This doesn't make sense. 0.4 miles. Jesus Christ, that's fuck. What is the walking distance? 7 minutes? 5 if you're taking the, what is that, bus, trolley? Yeah. And we can look at the map here. 6 minutes by bus, 4 minutes. Oh, if you're walking right now because it's busy, 7 minutes. So yeah, why would you, a good Christian girl, go to a trans-friendly spa unless you A, just wanted to start some shit, and B, you were absolutely looking for a situation like this? This again also points out the fact that there is no evidence to suggest that the reports in one article, that being that supposedly a guy had an erect penis, are in any way whatsoever proven, as that has not been reported by other articles. Also, and I want to say this real quick, give me 1 second. So this is one of my favorite TED Talks. I bring this up real quick so y'all can see it. Hope it doesn't play because I don't want to get fucking copyright striked. The truth about unwanted arousal. So any person that tells you that arousal is directly connected to your desires is a fucking idiot. So let's be clear. The parts of the brain that make the body physically aroused and the parts of the brain that are around when you are mentally or emotionally aroused are similar, but not always overlapping. What that means is, at least based on what I understand from her, is that a person could simulate arousal in the form of an erection or in the form of being like lubricated and not want sex. This is something that happens, trigger warning for sexual assault. This is something that can happen in sexual assault cases where it can be a giant mindfuck. I've worked with clients on this. It can be a giant mindfuck that they were wet or even orgasm during their assault. This happens to men a lot too, where if they are sexually assaulted by a woman, because they got an erection, the assumption is they were into it. When in reality, if anyone remembers being a 13-year-old boy, I sure do, that fucking thing got hard for nothing. Go back to the joke stuff about at the end of the other video about penises that someone thought I was being a creeper about. Also, she can go fuck herself. But this is the problem here. So first off, we have no evidence to suggest that a gay was erect in here. The idea that that's been proven is not. We have 4 other witnesses and supposedly a kid. Again, nobody's been super clear on this. And the fact is that, again, why did these people wait so long? It almost seems like they were sort of fished out or in a lot of ways, maybe part of this same hate mob. I was definitely there and I was so offended. So I need you guys to understand this, and I'm going to put this in the links doc below. I need people to watch it because they need to understand this, because this goes both ways. One of the examples she uses is, a guy and a girl, it's heteronormative, let's go off. A guy and a girl are fooling around. She's like, DTF. He's like, oh, but you're not wet, you're just being nice to me. I have known so many vagina havers who are, by definition, strugglers with lack of lubrication. This isn't because they're not DTF, it's because you need to buy lube. Sometimes the body doesn't go along with what you're doing. Anybody knows this. Any person who's had erectile dysfunction knows this. So this idea that even if a guy did get an erection, that doesn't mean shit, right? I'll see if I can add this in real quick. Let's see if we can find... You know what? Actually, I'm just going to put in the link because I don't want to take any chances. So let's come back to this real quick. So we already know that this place is right near the Trans Wellness Center in this area, right? We're talking about in Los Angeles. So let's talk about Los Angeles and kind of get a better idea of what the systems like are there. Anyway, adding some stuff about the head sheriff dude as the LASD and his tactics and attitudes. Alex Villanueva is drunk on power and needs to be stopped. He's constantly lashing out in an attempt to distract from the fact that he oversees the department with at least 15 active deputy gangs. He's covering up the murder of Andre Gurado, allegedly, and encouraging harassment of the families. That doesn't sound good. This comes from the People's City Council of Los Angeles. Okay, let's go on. And more on the guy. Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva, I'm terrible with pronouncing things, guys, I'm sorry, was spreading anti-Semitic Soros conspiracies while in uniform on a West Covina City Council meeting. Police aren't being infiltrated by white supremacists. They are one and the same. True. So we have a sheriff's department, and if you've ever watched the Last Week Tonight video, I'll put that in the link as well. If you've ever watched Last Week Tonight, you'll know for a fact that sheriffs are basically clowns, right? They are elected and often without anyone going against them, and often are drunk on power. This is just a thing that is true. Let me bring this up so that you guys can see which video it is, and it will be in the doc. So Last Week Tonight, John Oliver, sheriffs. Okay. I think this is the right one. I believe it is. All right, let's check this shit out. Oop. So Last Week Tonight, sheriffs. Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. This is from, let's see here, a year ago. Not that long. And here is where he is talking about how these people are basically, just kind of Drunk on power. John Oliver's so fucking great. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. I love this man. He's so fucking good. Anyway. So sheriff's departments are often, because they're an elected official, have very little oversight. They usually can get away with whatever they want. He goes into a lot of different ways that these people have abused these situations. I'm not going to try to sum it up here. I'm going to ask you guys to go watch this. You guys got to do some of your own homework, but this is important. So not only do I have a sheriff who is drunk on power, covering up murders, and has apparently deputy gangs. That sounds awful. Man, shit hasn't changed much since Rodney King. But has been infiltrated by white supremacists. Because they're one and the same. All right? Misquoted. My bad. But think about that. So you have a Soros conspiracy theorist as your sheriff. I doubt he's super pro-trans. In fact, Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva. Hey, I thought I got that time. Alex Villanueva. Alex. Sheriff in Los Angeles. Alex Villanueva. All right, we have this gentleman right here. Okay, this is the guy in question. Right? Man, this guy seems to be loved by a lot of places that are marked by Shinigami Eye as transphobic. Let's look at his wiki. Got some issues there, so I want to keep that in mind. 33rd Sheriff of the Los Angeles County, California. You guys can't see his picture. Let me hide chat for just 10 seconds. There he is. There he is. It's like a pumpkin. So, let's see some of the issues. Oh, here we go. In September 2020, Villanueva secured $35 million in funding from the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors to implement body-worn camera program across Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Though the LASD was one of the first law enforcement agencies in the nation to test body-worn camera technology, prior sheriffs have failed to implement such systems. Okay, that's not terrible. Accountability and transparency. Numerous bodies in Los Angeles County and California have clashed with Villanueva over accountability of the sheriff's department. Following numerous occasions during which the sheriff refused to appear before them, the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission called Villanueva to resign in October 2020. In January 2021, California Attorney General Xavier Becerra launched a civil rights investigation of the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, which sought to determine the LASD, that's really hard to say, whether they have engaged in a pattern or practice of unconstitutional policing following allegations of excessive force, retaliation, and other misconduct. We have our deputy gangs, removing immigration agents. So if one of these guys fucks up, he just lets them out, I guess. Death of Kobe Bryant. Wait, what? In January 2020, former Los Angeles Laker basketball player Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 other people were killed in a helicopter crash. I can't talk today. Helicopter crash. That's still awful, despite some of the things allegedly Kobe Bryant did. Within several weeks, the department learned that a deputy at the scene had shared a photo of the accident scene with an unauthorized person at a local bar. Holy shit. That's gross. Yeah, so the ultimate test of ethics, that sounds weird. So let's get back over to this. Last but not least. This is their take. I think it's solid. I'm going to read it. I've said before, this whole thing has a Project Veritas feel about it, and isn't it extremely convenient or weird that one or more evangelical Christians show up at an LGBT-friendly spa while an unhoused trans woman sex worker is at the spa? Maybe say 4 evangelical Christian women and 1 girl, all to file a total of 5 complaints of indecent exposure under Penal Code 3141. Plus, at least one dude to stand in the lobby and record the woman who posted the first video. Like, I guess the question is how these people would know to be at that time and place to catch a trans woman who could be falsely framed as a sexual predator and PD based on, I'll just steal the Click's way of saying that because I don't want to get demonetized, based on a distorted version of her criminal history. Anyway, then we have the internal LASD's document naming the trans woman as the suspect and just baldingly declaring she is falsely claiming to be a trans woman to gain access to women's spaces, something not reflected in her criminal history. Okay? So let's be clear. This is still developing. This is still something that is ongoing. The fact that we have such lovely trans people going through and digging through this shit is astounding. It is amazing. But I want you guys to continue to be doubtful. Doubtful doesn't mean ignoring evidence. It doesn't mean just going along with the narrative that fits your view. It means be doubtful. Doubtful of your own confirmation bias, but also doubtful of the narrative that's being handed to us, because the people who are handing it to us, namely the Sheriff's Department and Andy Ngo, are bad actors. These people have a very real incentive to fuck over trans people. It is in their best interest. And the fact is, they found an unhoused trans woman and are using her as what appears to be a target. Now, again, there's always the possibility that she could legitimately be guilty of doing something actively wrong. But that's not what the evidence shows. I want to remind everybody of something that's really important. And we said it on last night's stream, but I want to double down on it. This country is built on the notion of innocent until proven guilty. Our goals are always as follows. Believe the victims, withhold judgment against the accused. If you do not abide by those rules, spoiler alert, you are just a retributive idiot. You just want to lash out. You are acting like a child. The simple fact of the matter is that I can feel for these women if indeed they are acting in good faith, which I do not believe they are, but let's assume. And still withhold judgment, especially against a person who is doubly fucked, who has been ran through the system multiple times, who is a sex worker, which means she's immediately targeted for incredibly negative ways, and she's a trans woman. And clearly a woman who's very much in poverty, which means that, spoiler alert, she probably can't afford surgeries and hormones and all the things that would, help her transition. Not saying she needs those things, but saying the fact of the matter is that this is one of the things that sucks about privilege for passing trans women is that unpassing trans women can get this kind of harassment, especially if they are an intersection of class and other issues. I refuse to, without clear, concrete evidence followed by a conviction, believe the narrative that Andy Ngo and other white supremacists have put forth. Simple as that. You have to prove to me and my community that this is true, that what you say is accurate, and you have not done that. You have not demonstrated that in any way. And both the previous video we've done here and the video we've done here, thanks to these lovely people who did this digging, spoiler alert, have demonstrated much more clearly that there is very much a reasonable doubt here. Now, granted, I could be using that term wrong. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not claiming to know law. But this is reasonable doubt in my mind, and in the mind of most trans people who know what it's like to be targeted by you fuckers. So with that said, I'll end this one here. I'll keep you informed, guys. Me and Zena love you. And yeah, hang in there. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. You can also ring the bell if you want to be notified of our videos. If you want to help the channel, you can donate at streamlabs.com/transgirltherapist/tip. You You also can become a patron. Patreon.com/transphobtherapist. Lowest $3, you can support our channel. Thanks for watching.